Do you have a spirit animal?
That's a good, silly question.
That's an important question. What do you
Oh,
mean?
sorry.
It's a start.
That is a serious question. Probably the elephant, because it's the first gift I was given as a baby was an elephant. And I still have, well, I don't have the very first one. I have a picture of me when I was 10 days old with the very first elephant. But then I have another stuffed one that was given shortly after that. And so I've always thought about elephants and collected elephant figurines.
Nice. Somebody knew right away. Do we start with what your name is?
Okay, yes, my name is Rebecca. Rebecca Jane Houston. This is my studio at Akin in Studio 101 in Akin Lansdowne.
And how long have you been in this space?
Here for almost 2.5 years.
And you were at another Akin space before?
No, before that before that I had a studio space at York because I was doing my MFA.
What was the MFA in?
In sculpture and, well, fine arts, but I focused on sculpture, but I did a bit of painting and other things while I was there, and as a TA, I taught drawing. Nice. As well as sculpture.
And before that, for your undergrad, did you do something different?
Well, yeah, so I didn't take the kind of direct path. Well, I guess a lot of artists don't take a direct path, but I was working for a long time at an arts initiative called Sketch, which is a community arts project for street-involved and homeless youth, and I was there for 8 years. So I had a career as a community arts worker for a long time, and I would facilitate art workshops and do various things, and I just coordinated the volunteers, and then I became manager for a few years and did more maybe oversight administrative stuff, which I was terrible at, and really missed just doing workshops with youth all the time. And then I decided to go back to school. So I had never finished my undergrad. I was at Trent many years ago and working on a geography and Canadian studies degree, but then at the same time I would do illustrations for people and make posters and that sort of thing for people. And then, so I never finished. I just wasn't my place. The university environment wasn't working for me way back in my early 20s. So I left, I had a career, but still in the arts always. And then I decided to quit that job finally and go back to school full time and finish my undergrad. So I got my BFA at York and then I went straight into the MFA. But I was already 40 when I finished my BFA.
Right. So jumping from the MFA, how did you find yourself here?
Well, actually, when I worked at Sketch years ago, I met. I'm sure he doesn't remember, but I met Oliver, and he gave me a tour of the Different Studio when it had first opened because people at Sketch were talking about it then. So that was way back in the first couple of years of Akin. So I knew about it then, and then when I left York when I finished the MFA, one of the people who had been in the MFA the year before, who graduated the year before I did, Mary, she was here. So I knew about Mary being here, so I just contacted them to see if I could have a space, and I had a tour, and a few months later got a nice, beautiful spot.
And do you remember kind of the appeal of what this the space was, or being a part of this organization as opposed to something else?
Well, a variety of things. There are lots of levels of reasons for wanting to participate somewhere like Akin. I mean, one is how nice people are. I mean, like Oliver and Michael and Jen, when you first meet them, you just feel that they're just the kindest people. And so why wouldn't you want to be part of
Do
something
they care about what they're doing?
they care and they're just so
We just
like
get
just like sweet-hearted people. So that is immediately appealing. And then also I do live nearby and I have a house, but we don't have space or I guess we haven't made space for art studio. And for me, what's really helpful is not to be in my home family environment, trying to, be a mom and partner in running a house and worrying about all of that, and then also then trying to flip into artist in studio. And it absolutely, I couldn't do it. I had to be outside of the home, and it's really important as, I can't obviously speak for anyone else, but for me, I certainly connect that to being a mother and a woman as an artist, that having space outside of the home is really vital to my creative process, that I can be just artist here. It feels more independent, and I don't have to clean up for anybody, and that's amazing.
It's really nice, isn't it? Dedicated space.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Nice space. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's really, really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as far as kind of what you're working on or what you're excited about right now, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm doing a bunch of wildly different things. So I did sculpture and installation work when I was at York, and that was great. And while being here at Akin, I was able, because I suddenly had the space, I was able to do plaster casting, slip casting, mold making. And Akin has the kiln and the whole ceramics program. So that has really influenced the kind of work that I make. I mean, if Akin didn't have a ceramics program, I'd be doing something else.
That's pretty amazing. Hey?
It's pretty amazing. But I've always, I think my art practice has always been really influenced by whatever environment I'm in or whatever materials are around. When I was at York, I had access to a big wood shop and welding, and so I did metal and wood sculpture because that was available, and bronze. So because those things were available, I did them. And some artists, I think, are more dedicated to a particular craft or medium, and I'm absolutely not. I'm completely molded by whatever environment I happen to be in at that moment. So for that reason, I started collecting things like waste or scraps, or because that's the environment I'm in. I see things and I collect them, and so I started making installation work out of whatever things I could find. So up there, I don't know if you can see them right now, but those are some wooden sculptures made from construction waste. So they're part of a bigger project that where I made wooden construction waste into kinetic objects, so that they could. So the idea being that they would give you the sense of the aliveness of the matter of the waste itself, so that to remember that waste is just what we call it when it has power over us instead of us having power over it in a way, right? Because at the moment that it becomes waste, it gains more power. Now we have to serve it, as opposed to it being useful construction material for our purposes. Right? So it's this flip, this moment of the flip where agency, and there's whole theories about the agency of matter, which some people reject and some people accept, and that's fine. As an artist, your job is not to make people reject or accept things, right? It's to open up ideas and thoughts, or feelings. So anyway, so I was playing with that and exploring that idea of the aliveness of matter. And then lately, that has turned into some more installation work with, right now, with an environmental group called Environmental Defense, and they asked me to build an installation out of about 10 to 12,000 plastic water bottles. So I did that, and then because of that, I've been 2 times in the last 2 days asked to do other ones, and then I'm building another one for Pride weekend. So that kind of like construction of sculptural installation out of waste is continuing, which is great. And then I do slip casting, and I do like selling some ceramics. I have some cups and things here that I made.
Those are great.
Thank you.
Love that.
Doing some slip casting work and sculptural casting work, like these pipes made with slip casting.
Oh yeah. Those are awesome.
Thank you. So yeah, so those are clay. So I made molds of key clamps. You can see the like the lettering there, the key clamp lettering in there, made in England.
That's kind of an amazing detail, isn't it?
Yeah.
Getting that
Yeah.
little bit there. It's very effective.
So these I was using putting weeds in them to kind of play with the idea of these infrastructures. So I mean, these key clamps are specifically used to make temporary infrastructure. So just playing with that idea that all of what we build is temporary, and that the weeds will always come and they'll colonize and take over. So I've had installations with these full of just locally found, gathered plants
Yeah.
growing out of them.
I really like that idea about like mutable objects or impermanent things in art.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I think you speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, like it feels permanent whenever you make a solid object.
Yeah, yeah.
But
then it kind
even
of
this-
takes on and has a life of its own, and
yeah, I mean,
it's,
even this building, I mean, it seemed permanent, but it's not going to be here forever. And
right.
yeah.
So maybe we'll talk about kind of what's coming up for you as an artist, as a part of this space, and
Yeah.
And having to move and relocate. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. That's a train going by.
That happens here.
Yeah, we're right on the train tracks, which is one of the things I really love about this, and we should get some footage of the train going by at one point.
Yes.
Because I love that there's a door right there, and if it's open in the summertime, it's just trees out on the train tracks,
Yeah.
and you don't really feel like you're in the city, and I'm gonna miss that. So speaking of moving, yeah, just being on the ground floor and having that outdoors so immediately available is really a special component of this specific Loungedown Studio 101 that it's going to be sad not to have. But I guess my mixed feelings about that are that I have outgrown this space, and the new space I'm moving to is better for me. And it's going to be great for my practice. So the sad part is the people here and the connections and the community that exists here, but I have to trust that I'll build that at the other Akin location at DuPont that I'm moving to.
Right.
Which is amazing. So one of the wonderful privileges of being a member of a collective studio space like this is that even though this sad need to move is an ending, it's also not an ending, because we're still within Akin, and we're still going through different permutations of what that means in different studio spaces and different community connections. So I'm not losing any of that. It's a change, but it's not. It doesn't have to be a loss. There will be things lost. There will be things gained. So I really think that's the best part of being an Akin member, as opposed to having just been renting a space somewhere on my own and then getting evicted. I would be alone with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a really big deal.
It's huge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not alone with it, and I'm looked after and I'm cared for, because Akin as an organization wants me to be properly relocated, and that's why this is so, I think this union that we have like this is so powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Yeah, and how you've seen the new space that you're moving into.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing it's bigger because you said you've outgrown
Yeah, it's twice
this,
as big.
which is amazing.
100 square feet, and this is 50. Yeah.
And do you know anybody in that space yet, or
I
do you
actually
have a sense
haven't.
kind of who works out there?
I've seen the space, so I've seen their studios. So there are a few woodworkers and a few other ceramicists, and everybody in the room that I'm moving to has at least 100 square feet. So it's a little bit more. I think they call it the akin heavy duty room. Well, which is like medium to light duty, really. But there are there are tools and woodworking and ceramics. So it'll be. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do much oil painting in there, but that's okay. I'll find a way. We'll make a little like sealed in space with some plastic, or I don't know, like hang a little shower curtain over it or something.
Well,
Like,
anything's possible,
Yeah.
right? You've got the space. And
Yeah.
It's just a matter of figuring it out.
yeah. So I've met a few people, but I don't know. Like I haven't gotten to know people there yet. Obviously,
Yeah.
the way I have here, but yeah.
And since you mentioned painting, do you want to kind of talk about how that aspect fits into everything else that you do?
Yeah, okay, so during my master's thesis when I was working with construction waste, I started doing portraits of them. So I have like this 2x4 that has it's like got concrete splatter on it and nails sticking out of it. It was just something that I found that was thrown out. And it actually even has the shapes of where I made them all kinetic by cutting joints into them. And I've even got the pencil lines drawn on it, but then I never cut that one up. I decided to make a portrait of it first. So it was part of the whole project of really looking at these pieces for almost like characters or bodies, you know. And so then there's the bricks up there, which are also are kind of the paintings that I did. So I've been doing oil painting for a little while, but for the last 2 years, pretty much at Akin, I've only been doing ceramics. So then I was commissioned to make an oil painting, and so I have been doing that, which was a nice change because I did a lot of ceramics and I did like Christmas sales and that sort of thing, and I'm not someone who does the same thing for very long, so it was good to take a break from that stuff, and now I have so many new inspirations in mind for ceramic work and mold making that I want to do. So this giant pair of shoes is for somebody who ran 2 marathons in these shoes, and
Amazing.
so it's so again it's like a portrait. It's like treating the shoes like a body that they carry, the history that they carry, and there they are, 2 big giant shoes.
And so thinking about a little bit more the practical end of an art career, like for you personally, what does that look like? Like you talked about kind of being commissioned to do things and doing some sales and stuff. Like, what does being an artist look like? Maybe to someone who doesn't know.
Right.
In your case specifically.
Yeah, in my case, right now, it looks like piecing together a whole lot of different things, which is the way I like to live. I'm not interested in doing one job. So I teach at Toronto School of Art, and that I love teaching. So being an artist and being a teacher I see as really working hand in hand and being an amazing complement to each other. But I think I really enjoy the freedom to decide almost day to day what it means to me to be an artist and what I want to do with my days. So some days I just do stuff with my kids and that's life. And then other days I'm just here all day and I don't want to talk to my kids. And that's being an artist. It hasn't so far meant doing things like applying for grants and to the arts councils, because I just have struggled to figure out, I guess because I do so many different things, which thing to write about for a grant application, but I'm definitely going to try and get on that really soon. I've been saying that for years, whatever. Yeah, I don't know, I enjoy being entrepreneurial sometimes, so that's part of being an artist, and then just being alone in my studio doing whatever comes to me that day. I don't know, I think it's a little haphazard for me. I know a lot of artists who are much more focused and organized on the career aspect of it, and that's never been my strong suit, so I just kind of, I really appreciate when people say, oh, I like this, would you do this for me? Because then I'm like, yes, it gives me a direction and a focus for a little while.
Too,
yes.
right? Like, these are skills I can apply.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people ask me to make molds for them. That's great, I love that. I love the craft of that, as well as the artistic product that comes out of that craft too.
And maybe sort of a topical question here along the same lines. Do you have a feeling about, since we're in Toronto and this is kind of a part of the practice as well, do you have a feeling about what it's like to be an artist here in particular?
Yeah, it's challenging, partly because there's so much going on. It's hard to keep up with so many things, but on the other hand, the positive side of that is there's access to
So many things.
so many things and so many people and ways of working and work. Like, because I'm in Toronto, I can work at Toronto School of Art, or I can make sculptural installations, like I'm doing one for the Pride weekend.
Awesome.
So those, sure, it'll be great. So those opportunities exist because I'm here and available, and on the other hand, I do fantasize, I think as many people do, but leaving the city, about, like getting out of the busyness and somewhere where it's more peaceful and not being pulled in so many directions all the time. I don't see that happening anytime soon though. Yeah, so it's always a mixed thing. I feel right now very privileged to be part of this Akin project, like this project of being with other artists and trying to figure out how to be in studio space in this city, and just the process of muddling through that, and what does it mean, and what does it look like to other people. I mean, I'm involved with other organizations, arts organizations as well, so I'm always seeing how, for example, Mercer Union, where they're also, because of rents, being driven out of space, and have throughout their artist-run center history been driven out, but always embrace moving towards something new. And that's how you don't get crushed by it, right? Like, you stay on the positive side of what you're moving towards, and so it's amazing to be seeing how different organizations and different artists and people are figuring that stuff out right now, and then using that voice or information to try to speak to what is or isn't working about that process. Like, for example, my feeling about what's happening over on Sterling with the Mocha and artists being priced out of that neighborhood. I feel like I don't want to blame the Mocha for that. Like, we need a Mocha in Toronto. We don't have a modern art, big museum space.
No, yeah.
We don't have one in Toronto. It's ridiculous. I mean, look at Montreal. They have this beautiful, massive space. Well, the AGO is its own thing, and it's
It is.
great, but
it's different.
It's different. So,
Yes.
but it's not the Mocha, right? I mean, this is a very particular thing that it offers, and that it's very strange that Toronto hasn't already had an institution like that. But my sense is not that I blame the Mocha for moving into that area and gentrifying, and that's, I mean, gentrification is a political reality. It's not, I don't want to blame individuals for their behaviors. I want to look at what the overarching political and economic realities are that are leading to people behaving the way they do, right? And that is the political will to create affordable, protected, affordable, space for artists, for low-income communities, for affordable housing, that's a political problem. I don't focus that on what's happening in one particular neighborhood here or there in Toronto. If the city and the province had the will to protect and create zoning and to stand up to the developers and to say no, and that's what we don't have in Toronto, or we haven't had enough of, you know.